I think we can start now.
Yes, sir. Okay. Good afternoon, all of you. Sorry, good evening, all of you. So, welcome all of you for the first lecture of a series of a research seminar. So, today we have a Dr. Arun Kumar Verma. Arun Kumar Verma earned his master and PhD from IIT Delhi, New Delhi, India. He is currently working as an assistant professor at Electrical Department, MNIT Jaipur. He was postdoctoral research fellow at Energy Research Institute, NTU Singapore during 2015-16. Prior to joining NTU Singapore, he worked as a visiting graduate research at Smart Grid Energy Research Center, University of California, USA during 2014-15. He won the prestigious Base Fellowship for Advanced Solar Energy Research in year 2014. He has been conferred with the prestigious POSCO Power System Research Award 2016. He is a guest editor in IET Power Electronics Special Issue and assistant editor of the Smart Grid Journal and member of editorial board of EPE Journal. Sir has more than 5 research projects to his credit. Sir has also completed 5 consultancy projects. Sir currently supervising 5 PhD scholar. He has also filed 1 patent recently, and he has more than 30 to 35 publications to his credit in a well IEEE conference and a journal. Now I request sir to please start the session.
Thank you, Dr. Amit. Thank you very much. I am audible, I hope.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, good evening to all participants and
Good
all.
evening, sir.
So, our topic is basically electric vehicles, importance, opportunities, challenges, and advancement. So, basically, this talk involve what exactly the need of electric vehicles, what are the challenges behind that. I mean, why we are not able to adopt them so nicely, you can say, and then what are the opportunities for research, and ultimately what exactly right now we are doing in our lab. So why we need electric vehicles? First of all, I'll just let you know the history of electric vehicles are not new. I mean, this is an old one, starting from 1830 to 1910. We have some sort of vehicles, but since we have some advancement in power electronics, the scenario changed rapidly. Not only power, just in the battery technology also, and still we are gaining ground. These are few old models. I mean, you can see some of the, I mean, still available electric engines and all. So now, why electric vehicles? So this is something alarming situation actually. We all know AQI, air quality index. The good range of electric, I mean, the AQI is 0 to 50, and satisfactory is 51 to 100, and severe is 400 to 500. When the air quality index is severe, it affects healthy people as well as the seriously impact those with the existing disease, especially the people with the old age and their children. So our ultimate aim is just we must have a AQI under 100. But you might have heard about Delhi during this November, December winter season, that the AQI index is around 900 also. This is a severe, more than severe even. So why we are not able to breathe properly, or why we are not able to have a proper air quality index, proper AQI? One reason is air pollution, that not only due to the industry, but also due to transportation. Just a sensitive thing. I mean, when I was in NTU Singapore, once this AQI index was crossed to 100, then there is a national advisory that don't go for jogging, or children should not come out, elderly people should not come out, and the distribution of N95 masks was free of cost. The show your icon and get a N95 marks. I mean, I just want to highlight a kind of sensitivity to the human health. So this air quality index is quite important, and we must have in a certain means up to 100, 150, that is okay. But if it crosses 500, then this is really a serious problem. So transportation is also one of the reasons for this. Not only transportation, industry is also a reason for that. But a significant amount of this air quality index is dominated by the transportation. What exactly we are using? Petrol, diesel based transportation. So you can see 14% of this AQI, or you can say the carbon dioxide emission, is basically contributed to the transportation only. Then if we see the greenhouse gas emission, top 5 countries, I mean, we are there. India is there. China, US, Russia, and we are also there. So this is basically the greenhouse gas emissions. Now, one more thing. This is a quite important thing. As I have told you earlier that 14% of this AQI index is contributed to that transportation. It doesn't mean that if you are using an electric vehicle, the problem will sort out. Okay. Here I just want to point out low carbon grid, medium low carbon, medium high, and high carbon grid. What exactly those are? Low carbon grid means whatever energy or whatever electricity you are injecting into the grid, that is coming from the renewable energy. I mean, almost from the renewable energy. 97% zero emission fuels. Okay. 0% coal means nothing is coming from the thermal power plant or coal fired power plant. That is basically green grid, or you can say the low carbon grid. Now high carbon grid are where the almost energy which is coming from the coal only, 97%, 93% is coming from the coal fired power plant, or you can say thermal power plant. That is basically called high carbon grid, because when you are firing the coal, ultimately it is contributing to the emission, greenhouse gas emissions and all. Okay. So the energy which you have recovered from the coal and you are contributing to the grid, that is basically high carbon grid now. So ultimately the purpose of using electric vehicle is justified when you are using or when you are charging your vehicle from the low carbon grid. I mean, when you are totally charging your electric vehicle from the renewable energy, it is a worth. Okay. Let's say you are charging your electric vehicle from the coal fired power plant or thermal power plant, then ultimately you can see the comparison here. The emission level. If it is a conventional vehicle that is basically running from the fuel, you have a emission level 13, and other electric vehicles and plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, you can see the range. I mean, 10 or 12 like that. Okay, 10, 12, and 13. That not a big difference. Okay, yeah, still some difference is there, but not a big difference. Okay, 11.7 here in the emission values here, 11.7, and you can see 13. Not big difference. But if you see this one, you are charging your electric vehicle from a total renewable energy grid or total low carbon grid, you can see the emission level. Okay, here conventional is 13 as earlier, and you can see 4, 5, 4.5, 3.8, something like that. Okay, so this is the difference. So if you use low carbon grid in electric vehicles, it would be fine. So ultimately, right now I can say electricity is cheaper than gas. Electric cars are less pollute and comparatively silent, virtually silent, you can say. Okay. These are some of the advantages of cheaper to run, cheaper to maintain, less pollution, eco-friendly, health benefits, safety improvements. So basically, just to introduce electric vehicles, what are the basically primary advantages? The pollution. Then second is your economy, and many other benefits I have already discussed. Now, if electric vehicles are so advantageous and so beneficial, then why we are not adopting them? What are the challenges basically? What are the hindrance? What is stopping us basically? What are the hindrance that we are not able to adopt electric vehicle properly? So I have divided those challenges in four parts: technical challenges, infrastructure wise challenges, policies issue, and market. So this is one of the, I mean, in one slide only we describe all the barriers which are which are acting as a hindrance in order to adopt the electric vehicles. So technical challenges, first thing is efficiency of the driving range of batteries, charging time, safety and environmental impacts. First thing is battery. I would say battery is the biggest culprit in the electric vehicles right now. In the present scenario, present technical advancement, I would say battery is the biggest culprit or biggest component where we need to act in the electric vehicle. So efficiencies of batteries. Now, you might have traveled e-rickshaws. Generally the rickshaws, they are having a 48 volt and 100 ampere hour battery. Okay, those are using lithium. Lead acid batteries. They generally charge it by the night time and using for the whole day. Okay, so 1 kWh, a medium segment electric vehicle. I'm talking about those Centro, Wagoner, or the Swift, just like the medium C segment vehicles. They generally have a 10 kWh battery. Okay, C segment. 1 kWh is roughly equivalent to, means 1 kWh energy is roughly used for a, or maybe able to run for a around 6.6 miles or something. Okay. So
laptop.
So this e-rickshaw people generally charge on around run around 80 to 100 kilometers in a day, and ultimately again in the night time they charge it. Okay. Efficiencies of the battery. I mean to say that the battery of my vehicle is not sufficient to drive for a large range. Let's say in a Jaipur, I have to travel. So, okay, 30 kilometer, from one side and 30 kilometer next side, 60 kilometers is enough. My vehicle is fine. I have a scooter, I have a cycle or car, that is enough. Okay. But let's say I have to travel from Jaipur to Delhi. One side is around 300 kilometers. So, going to 300 kilometers and coming back again for 600 kilometers. So, do I have that driving range, or my battery is so efficient that I can travel to Delhi and come back? No. This is the biggest thing right now. The driving range and the efficiency of the batteries. Okay. Or let's say if I have some battery of such type, what is the charging time? The third point is charging time, because I have a cycle. I use this is a 10 ampere battery, 10 ampere hour battery I'm using in that. In order to charge the 10 ampere hour battery, it require around 2 hours. Okay. I'm talking about the charge. Okay, this is a small battery. Let's say I have a vehicle, electric vehicle, and I'm going from Jaipur to Delhi. Somehow my battery is drained out, and on the way, let's say if I found any charging station, although there is no charging station available, okay, that I'll separately discuss in the infrastructure. So let's say I have some charging station. I mean, is it possible that if I can wait for 3 to 4 hours so that my battery can get charged? Okay, nobody can wait for 3 to 4 hours. Okay, in a simple, if I have a this conventional vehicle, I can go to refilling station, and within 3 to 5 minutes, I can get my tank full, not more than that. And if some crowd is there, let's say not more than 10 minutes in any case. Okay. So I don't have a chance to wait for 3 to 4 hours in order to charge my battery. So charging time is also problematic right now. So efficiency of battery, driving range, charging time. Now fourth point is safety. If I am not using a proper battery management system, or simply I can say smart charging, if I am not using smart charging or coordinated charging, and I'm charging a lithium battery, then definitely a kind of bomb. Okay. Without BEMS, if I'm charging my battery, lithium ion battery especially, this is a kind of bomb. Okay. So safety is also a concern. Now, environmental impact, that is basically nothing but how to handle the waste from battery. This is another thing. Okay. So technical barriers, you can see the technical barriers are totally roaming around battery only. Efficiency, range, charging time, safety, and environmental impact. This is all about battery only. Okay. So these are the technical challenges people are right now facing. I charge my cycle for 2 hours, and for a 1 week I don't need any charge. Okay, because once I charge it, it runs around 35 kilometers or something. I have an electric cycle with me, which is made by our student under TQ project itself. So for me, it's okay because I'm moving around in campus. I can sit in my office and I can charge it for 2 hours. But if I'm going for a Jaipur to Delhi, and ultimately I have a drained out battery, I can't have so much of 3 hours. I mean, I don't have a 3 hour time so that I can recharge it again. Another thing, come next, that is infrastructure basically. So technical challenges are over. I mean, I request the audience, you can note your question. Later on in the last 10 minutes, we will discuss. Okay. Infrastructure. If we talk about infrastructure, the first thing is charging infrastructure. Earlier in technical barriers, I told if I have to travel from Jaipur to Delhi, do I have a charging station in between? And simply you see, if I travel from Jaipur to Delhi, you will find around I think 50 to 60 refueling stations in between. I haven't calculated, but approximately 50, 60 we will find out, or more than that also. This is one side I'm talking about. Okay, but do we have any kind of charging infrastructure? Okay, no, we don't have. Second thing is a smart grid. Now, let's say in Jaipur, we have around 50 lakh population. In 50 lakh, let's say 1 lakh electric vehicles are there. And if they are charging at a particular, I mean, see, although we all are going to offices in the daytime, we are coming back in the evening and we are charging our vehicles. Like that scenario is there. Okay, let's say 70 to 80% people are doing the same thing. So out of 1 lakh, 70-80,000 vehicles are plugged into charging at the same time. Do our grids are capable of handling this kind of load? This is because this is a load, a kind of load. Okay, so whether our grids are capable of handling such kind of load, or this is one thing. Second thing is, let's say in an MIT campus itself, we have a 6,000 around population. Let's say we have 1,000 vehicle. Okay, on an average, one vehicle is having a 10 kilowatt hour. Morning we are in the offices, and 5 o'clock people are leaving. This is a kind of scenario or assumption, because we assume that 70 to 80% are doing like that only. Okay, so those vehicles, 1,000 vehicles lying in the parking idly, and they are almost SOC is 90%, state of charge of their batteries around 90% or 80% like that. So roughly calculated, we have around 10,000 kilowatt hour. That much of a spinning reserve, or you can say that much of energy is lying idle from 9 to 5. Let's say in one area, maybe some critical load, or maybe some other area of city, they have a frequency drop, or simply we can say load demand. Is it possible those spinning reserve of 10,000 kilowatt hour or 10,000 unit can be transferred to that place? Or let's say not all 10,000, at least 50% or 40%, 60% can be transferred to that site. So that kind of accommodation of the load, or the accommodation of the energy, or the dynamic management of the energy is required. whether our grid are capable or not, that we need to think. Okay, because once your electric vehicles are added into the infrastructure, we need to think about all those things. Battery recycling. Battery recycling is also one of the severe problem. We can, first of all, before battery recycling, I'll talk about battery swapping. I was in IIT Delhi. One company is mentoring them. One company have installed their e-scooters in IIT campus. Even they contacted me. They visited MNIT. I had a meeting with them in IIT Delhi also. So they had a concept of swapping battery. Means in my scooter, I have two batteries. Both are fully charged for a timing. Now I traveled some distance, and one of my battery got drained out, discharged totally. Now with the help of my mobile app, I can swap. The fully charged battery will come into the action, and the drained out battery will be aside. Okay. Now my journey still continues since I have a backup. Okay. Now in between I can move to battery swapping station, where I can ask battery people that just get this drained out battery out and give me the fully charged battery. Okay, this is called basically battery swapping, that one battery will always be in the backup. Now how to maintain the recycling? Basically the waste generated through the battery or this battery swapping, then recharging them again and again. So this is basically comes under battery recycling. This is also means we need a separate plant, separate kind of industry in order to recycle all those things. Next is dedicated lanes for electric, you can say electric highway or whatever. So that is something like we have a dedicated corridors for the buses. In Delhi, VRT corridor was there. In Surat, I have seen those dedicated corridors for buses. So similarly, can we think of electric highways where we can have a dedicated lanes for this electric vehicles, or with a charging facility also? In between with the wireless charging, can we charge them? Okay, means let's say my car stops at my bus stops at a bus station for a 2 minute itself. Meantime, if I can have some fast charging infrastructure as a wireless, I can charge in this. Meantime, people can get into the bus, and now I can move from there. So whatever time, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, I stopped at a particular station, in meantime it can get charged. Okay. So these are the barriers infrastructure wise. Now come to the policy. Taxation of vehicle and component, subsidies on fossil fuel, electricity tariff policies. Basically, in California, they have a dedicated just like just like refilling stations, they have a chargers and charging point, or you can say the charging stations. They provide a huge subsidy on the electric vehicles also, just to promote the electric vehicles. So same thing we need to do here in India also, that we should give subsidies for electric vehicles. Maybe one more thing we can do, that for a dedicated lane or a toll tax, the people who are owning electric vehicle must not get paid. They should not pay anything since they are owning an electric vehicle. That kind of rules, or zero credit, whatever you can say, some sort of policies are required in order to adopt those electric vehicles. Maybe in form of subsidy, maybe in terms of no toll tax for those vehicles, or maybe the financial term should be eased out in that way that people can adopt more and more electric vehicles. Tariff policies, basically in a few European countries and US, they have a flexible tariff plan, demand and supply type concept. But in India, we have another type of concept, that if you consume this much of unit, the charges are this. If you consume more than the charges are this, just like in that segment. Okay, so we need to plan electricity tariff also in such a manner that it can benefit to the electric vehicle owners. Then after that, the last barrier is market basically. Testing and certification, vehicle servicing. Okay, so testing and certification. If your electric vehicle is having a more than 25 kilometer per hour, then you need certification. If it is a less than 25 kilometer per hour, there is no RTO rules need to be followed. No certification of registration, no helmet, no this red light, green light concept. Okay, you are free from all those things. If your electric vehicle which you are owning having a less than 25 kilometer per hour speed, just like our bicycle, which is developed by our student. But once you cross this 25 kilometer per hour, you need a registration from RTO. You need a testing certification from a means right now RAI Pune is doing all those things. So, but see, when you purchase a normal vehicle, maybe scooter or car, you have a RTO office in each and every city. Okay. So those kind of facility need to be created for the electric vehicle also, so that testing and certificate can be easy. Vehicle servicing, service stations should be there all the way. I mean, if you purchase Maruti, Tata or whatever, you know that where are the service centers in a whole city. Similar pattern, if you are purchasing electric vehicle, you must know where are the electric vehicle servicing stations. Those are right now, those are not in the picture, but I mean, maybe slowly they are gaining the ground. High capital cost and financing. Obviously, the capital cost is very high for electric vehicles. Market for electricity storage, consumer perception, raw material for batteries. Raw material for batteries is again a very, very difficult question. Since lead acid batteries are not so efficient, people are going for lithium ion, and search is going on for other materials also. This is basically a domain for the people who are working in the material science or chemistry or physicist. So raw material for batteries I'll discuss in my next slide. So overall, these are the various which I have classified into into 4 categories: technical, infrastructure, policy, and market. So until unless we want to resolve these issues, we can't go further. We need to resolve all those issues. Although Government of India have a FAME 1, FAME 2, and they have a lot of financing, subsidies, research and development. So many things are going on, but it will take some time. Just like if you remember, when solar came into the market, the unit price was 20 rupees or more than that even. Okay. Right now, you know what is the cost of a solar per unit energy generated from the solar? It's around 1 rupees. Nobody thought about it that one day it will come to 1 rupees also. Similarly, you can see the telephones. Okay, at a time in 90s or hardly one or two houses hardly have a phone in your locality. But right now you can see after 2003 or 4, one person is having a two to three numbers, 2 to 3 mobiles even. Okay, just like in LED lighting also. Earlier LED lighting was of 300. Right now you can get it to 70 or 75, 60 rupees even from ESL. So this is how slowly technology gaining ground. Okay. So similarly, today I am saying that the day will come when lot of people, lot of people from us itself, they will own those electric vehicles. So all those barriers I have discussed through my earlier slide. Now, electric vehicle in Indian's perspective. This is just informative, nothing else, nothing to explain in this. Basically, National Electric Mobility Mission that is launched by Government of India. We are planning to have a all electric vehicle by 2030. Total investment of around 4 to 4.5 billion. That is basically including R&D, project funding and all. Very interesting thing I would like to share with you. I was in IIT Guwahati in 2018, June 2018, and I had a meeting with the big industry giant like Hero Electric, Ashok Leyland, Mahindra. Those all are working in those electric area. I asked one question when this one-to-one discussion was going on in a panel discussion type thing. I asked that I am so and so. We are working in the area of charger. We are developing electric vehicle charger. Can you let us know your problem? What are the real-time problem industry is facing, so that at least academia can help them? the answer was very funny. The CTO of Ashok Leyland was there. He told that we are simply buying from China and assembling it, so we don't have any issue. So earlier the scenario was they are purchasing from China, assembling it, and finally doing the things. Nobody was bothering for R&D, although they have a big budget. They are big tycoon for this market. Okay, but still China was dominating in the whole scenario, starting from your motor or starting from your charger, everything. Okay. The scenario should be changed. People should have their own things. That should come through Make in India. I don't know what exactly going on, but our engineers, our researchers, the people who are engaging in this talk, the participant, they must think that can we develop a small things which can helpful for those electric vehicles and all. This is one of the hindrance. The last slide which I discussed about the barriers, this is also one of the barriers that we are depending upon China for everything. The thing is, we don't have our motor which we can use in our cycle, scooter, tricycle, or e-rickshaws. The motor which they all are purchasing from China itself. Even the cycle which was developed by our student, they simply purchased it through the same channel only. But as a technician, as a technocrat, as an engineer, this is the same for us. I mean, I personally feel this. So we should plan or we should work on this. I mean, I'm trying that can we develop our own motor? This is a huge market. If we can develop that motor, then simply we can say this is a indigenous technology, and a lot of people are working on that. Although few motors are available in India, but their performance is not up to the mark. Ultimately, people are again looking at China. So this is one thing. Now, government noticed that and kept a budget for R&D. I mean, people can apply for funding in this area also. Okay. So a lot of funding is available for that. But we really need to think about it. So these are the few cars made by Mahindra, Tata, Tagore. I mean, all people were there at that time. So I'm not going in policy matter. This is government things. I'm just skipping those policy matter of government of India right now for this talk at least. Okay. Just the one thing I would like to say that if we are, I mean, totally converting to the electric vehicle, you can see that the CO2 emission we can reduce by 37%, and energy consumption from motorized passenger that could be about 64%. Okay, that is the change we can make it. Energy demand can be reduced by 64%, and carbon emission can be reduced by 37% if we are all electric. So this is, I'm skipping those. One last thing is we have a Make in India, Digital India, FAME. FAME is nothing but fast adoption and manufacturing of the electric vehicles. So under this, basically, lot of subsidies, not subsidies, lot of funding is available so that people can do research and ultimately come out with indigenous thing. Green Mobility Fund, Smart City Mission. See, all those government, flexibility of government India contributing to the green mobility or electric transportation or e-mobility mission of Indian government. All those are anyway by one and another mean they are contributing to the electric mobility mission. Okay. So under those scheme, FAME especially, lot of funding is available, and we should come out with that. Even we are planning to work in that direction also, that we should develop something indigenous in that direction. So this is how in our country, how many vehicles are available, in which slightly old, but this is the current scenario in each state, how many electric vehicles we have. These are few motors basically. Permanent magnet motor which we use for electric vehicles, induction motor, switched reluctance motor, that depending upon the ratings basically. So I have explained where we are using. Okay. Now batteries, again I'm coming back to batteries. We are using generally lead acid, nickel cadmium, nickel metal halide, lithium ion batteries. Now see this, the availability. Now we have a lead acid. I told you about lead acid, that what is the roughly range. Okay. So lithium ion, in the available range, lithium ion is the only battery which has a highest driving range right now. Under development, again, some research is going on, and the R&D phase, you can see lithium air, 550 kilometer. If we develop this R&D phase, the last one, is a really a boom in the electric vehicle segment, because the barrier which I have explained earlier, the one of the barrier was driving range of the battery. Okay, but right now the market in terms of driving range, market is captured by the lithium only, lithium ion. But again, the problem is, or my question is, whether do we have the enough lithium in our country? Since lithium ion is the battery which is having a highest driving range right now, and you can see in the range, in the higher range, lithium is always there. Lithium ion, future lithium ion, lithium sulfur, lithium air. Okay, everywhere you will find that lithium is always playing a biggest role in order to develop the battery. But do we have enough lithium? See the list: Australia, Chile, China, Argentina, Zimbabwe, Portugal, Brazil. We don't have India nowhere. So this is again the barrier. Since you want to create battery, you want to have a battery plant in India, that's okay. Battery plant can be there. People, I mean, some industry can come, they can invest. A lot of things are there. But do we have the raw material for that? Again, we have to depend upon other countries for raw material. That raw material is nothing but lithium. Either you have to depend upon Australia, Chile, China, like that. Okay. So that is again a problem. So these are the basically battery ecosystem. These are the companies which are doing R&D as well as developing the product in a battery range. Now come to this. So whatever I have discussed now, right now, those are the basically what are the challenges, what are the opportunities, and what are the importance and challenges basically. Now I'll talk about the opportunities. I'm not aware what exactly what kind of participant I have right now, but for the research point of view, I'll give some idea that where in the electrical region where people can do research. I hope people with MTech or PhD will also be here, or people who are about to do PhD or maybe the MTech thesis, they can get benefit out of it. So just to see this, basically onboard charging or off-board chargers, the two type of there. The name itself of having a very clarity: on-board, off-board. Okay. So first of all, we are converting this AC into DC. So AC DC converters are there. Then you have a power factor correction, PFC. Since at AC side you must have a power factor unity, so you are using a power factor correction circuit. Then the DC which you get from this AC to DC conversion, DC DC converters are used in order to charge the battery. So people who are interested in power electronics, they can work at a different type of DC to DC converter topology in order to charge this battery. One thing. Second thing is AC to DC conversion also. People can work different topologies. Just like if people are from power electronics are here, they might have heard about buck converter, boost converter, or maybe cuck converter, SAPIC, Zeta. All those converters are basically on the name of the scientist who discovered them, who developed them. Okay. So ultimately, one of you can also develop a new converter and can name it on your own. Okay. So AC to DC converter, DC to DC converter, different topologies. Now, what are the problem? What exactly you want to develop, or what is motivation basically? So that also I'll discuss when I'll come to the left side. Okay. Then now there's a battery. Now people who are from power system, they can think about how smartly they can charge this battery. Smart charging algorithm they can work out. Okay. Maybe they can work out on some type of battery energy management system. Then they can think of the user behavior. Let's say I own an electric vehicle, at what time I'm coming, at what time going. So accordingly, the scheduling of those electric vehicles, in that area also people can work. Okay. So basically those charging algorithm and all. So those are the areas where power system people can work. Now come to this electric motor sections. Huge work is required. So here power electronics drive people can work out. So there are major 4-5 areas there in electric vehicle people can work. One more thing is power system people also can think about electric vehicle integration to grid. So many effects are there, so many things are there, so many problems are there in that area also, that whether our grid is ready, how it will, what are the user behavior, how they will come, so many things are there in that. Okay, so completely power electrons, power system people can work in that, and lot of things are available for computer science people and electronics people also, because in electric vehicle basically two terminology are there: grid to vehicle. This is called charging. Basically grid to vehicle, we are charging our vehicle from the grid. Another is vehicle to grid, we are discharging back to the grid, bidirectional power. So this bidirectional power flow is not only, I mean, for this bidirectional power flow, not only power just people are responsible, but you need a communication people, you need a computer science people in order to make it a reality. Okay, so this is a combination of your all electrical, computer science in electronics engineering. So these are the few charges: level 1, level 2, level 3. In our lab we have developed only level 1 till now. These are old, I mean, as I told you earlier that, I mean, we are not saying anything new. A lot of things are available in the beginning also, I mean, in the olden days. So this is basically, I have explained almost all the component in my this slide, basically what exactly the components are, everything explained here. So these are the few protocols, basically communication protocols: SEDMO, SAE, DC, J1772, AC. This is basically Japanese. SEDMO is basically a Japanese protocol in order to charge that. Communication protocols, basically a lot of communication protocols are required in order to charging and discharging of the battery when you have a bidirectional power flow. So onboard, offboard already I have explained. This is basically the charging time for that. I just want to move to the lab side, basically what we are doing in lab. So vehicle to grid, grid to vehicle, already I have told. Once you have a charging vehicle, this is a grid to vehicle. Here from grid we are charging our batteries. This is basically grid to vehicle, and when we are discharging back to the grid, that is basically vehicle to grid. This is one concept, basically. This is a system which we have developed at IIT Delhi. Just want to point out, because since this is also related with electric vehicle. So here the black box, you can see this is a battery basically, and the solar simulator, DSpace control and all, inverter, and also the whole thing, the hardware, that can be explained with this diagram. We have a solar energy, we are sending into the grid. You can imagine this is a solar indicated building. Rooftop solar is there in a building, and on the basement electric vehicles are parked. You can imagine in that way. Okay, so when solar is there, you can charge those electric vehicles, and subsequently extra power you can send to the grid. And now if solar is not there, or let's say grid is also not there, at that time the energy which is stored in the electric vehicle can be transferred back to the load, or building load you can say, or maybe transferred to the grid. So here you can see bidirectional power flow. Here in bidirectional power flow, you can see when you are charging or you are injecting into the grid, okay, your current and voltage are in the same phase here. And when you are bidirectional flow, when we are doing the opposite, I mean you are discharging or sending back, I mean taking back from the grid, that is basically your current is 180 degree out of phase from the voltage. So now what exactly we are doing in the lab? So I'll take next 15 minutes for lab only. Basically in we have developed this laboratory, smart energy and sustainable research lab at MNIT Jaipur. So in this lab, basically we are developing a few chargers in order to charge the electric vehicles. So in those chargers, basically, ultimately what exactly we need to do, because chargers are already there. So one industry approached us earlier, and they gave us a charger. They told that the weight of this charger is basically 3 kg. This is basically e-rickshaw charger. Okay, efficiency 70%, and size was quite bulky, just like some CRO type. Okay, so they told us, can you reduce the weight to 1 kg, efficiency around 90% or more, and size should be reduced. Ultimately, we got the problem, the statement of our problem. What exactly we need to do? So reverse side, we can say. Okay. So now our target was, can we reduce the weight of this charger? Can we improve the efficiency of this charger? Can we reduce the size of this charger? And also the cost is also one of the component. At same time, the cost should also be reduced. So the targets, and we already had a funding project in our lab. So we worked on this. Ultimately, we are able to reduce the 3 kg to 1 kg. We were able to reduce the we were able to reduce, increase the efficiency from 70 to around 92%, and ultimately the size of the overall charger will also reduce. Okay, so ultimately these are the objective when you are talking for a charger, when you are trying to develop a charger for electric vehicle, a kind of any electric vehicle. It may be a cycle charger, it may be a tricycle, it may be a three-wheeler, it may be a car charger. So these are the mottos. Now how to do that? Basically those things can be, I won't go into much technical, I'll just ignite something. How we can reduce the weight. See, what are the components which exactly responsible for weight? One is your heat sink, another is your just size of your component. Okay, let's say inductor. If you have a 1 millihenry or if you have a 5 millihenry, obviously the weight will be high. So target on those. How you can reduce the heat sink size, how you can reduce the inductor size, how you can reduce the capacitor size. Once you reduce the size, obviously the overall size of the size as well as weight of the charger will come down. Now in order to reduce this, first of all we used soft switching. There's no doubt soft switching, then the PWM strategy, then third thing is selection of the component, switching component. We totally worked on this, and ultimately by our mathematics we focus on the topology, that how and what modification can lead us to achieve those target. Okay, so these four things we worked on, and ultimately we achieved that. So this is the last level we have developed in laboratory, 1 kilowatt, 120. This is a US standard, so we have a 230 volt. This we have developed in lab. Now basically device switch selection or device selection. Okay, when we have a high power rating, we use IGBT, high power and low frequency, and low power high frequency MOSFET. In IGBT and MOSFET, we have so many switches, types of switches depending upon the industry manufacturer. Okay. Now how to select those switches? So based on this R1 resistance value, we select the switches, and ultimately the losses of a particular device depend upon that value. So just get the data sheet of a particular device, compare that data sheet, find out the best one, but ultimately you have to think about cost also. It could possible that cost is very high and device is also very good, but that's not the aim. So we have a trade-off type of situation, that we can get a midway, since cost is also one of the criteria. Now selection of switch is another thing. One thing is basically soft switching. You know that this is a very fundamental thing, all of you know in BTech. So our ultimate aim is just in a power electronics, basically we operate the switch in either in the cutoff region or this quasi-saturation region. Okay, when the saturation just to begin. Okay, but not in the saturation region. In power electronics, we always try to operate the switch in either in cutoff region or in the this quasi-saturation region, not in the saturation region. Okay, so when you are operating in cutoff region or in this region, basically ultimately I'm saying ideally, okay, ideally either your current or voltage is zero. Ideally I'm saying ideally your current and voltage is 0. So P equals to VI. If either one is 0, obviously your power is 0, or you say power losses are 0. So when you are operating in the region, prescribed region, either you are achieving a 0 current switching or 0 voltage switching. Okay. Not in saturation, because if you are operating here, definitely current and voltage will be there, and you will have this type of situation. These are the losses basically. Here you can see switching losses area in this hard switching. But in 0 current and 0, so you have a practically, ideally, I'm saying ideally power losses are 0. So once you are able to achieve that, and achieving this soft switching is not easy, because earlier what people, they have a kind of experiment or their research, that when they are at a light load, okay, soft switching got lost. Heavy load, soft switching was fine, because in few circuits when there is a light load, the value of current is less, and this due to desaturation, soft switching lost. Okay, so when soft switching loss, obviously losses will increase. So ultimately my student achieved that from starting from the light load to heavy load, they are able to achieve the soft switching. How it possible? By having a small modification in the circuit. So we achieved that, we published. These are the changes, how we achieve, either we use some auxiliary thing in the circuit, or the way of using this PWM, the way of switch selection, the way of using high switching frequency, all those methods we adopted, and ultimately we are able to achieve the desired result. Okay, this is basically the switch selection, how you select the switch, and ultimately there's a difference in the frequency, sorry, in the efficiency, and also we published in that. This is something we got from the industry, and we totally modified it from 3 kg to 1 kg, and size, weight, cost, everything we have reduced in that. So these few things we have developed. This is a universal charger for braking or regenerative braking, charging, discharging, all mode it can work. And one more thing is basically this wireless charger. This student has completed his PhD, now you want to submit. So in this, basically we have a transmitter coil and receiver coil like this. I mean, this is a circuit, and this is transmitter coil and receiver coil. The gap between the transmitter receiver coil is 27 centimeter or 270 mm. So one is this transmitter coil, another is a receiver coil, and ultimately this is the battery. Here you can see the battery charging here. This is basically the basically the battery. This is the battery basically. So there is no physical contact between the transmitter and receiver, and diode bridge rectifier and all. Now we are charging this battery. So 27 centimeters is good enough ground clearance, and I think almost all the vehicles are got covered in this. And this is basically a startup incubated by my some of my students. I'm a mentor for that. They are indulging in developing e-cycles, e-bikes. Although we have developed only cycle right now, we are working on the bike also. So this is basically developed by our student. In a single charge, it will go for 35 kilometer, and when there is a pedal assist mode also, it can go up to 70 kilometer or 60 kilometer. Just the half of the unit. It means you charge once, it will cost only 3 rupees, and in 3 rupees you will move around 60 kilometer. I'm using this cycle in my campus. Means I'm using this cycle, the same cycle. In fact, even the whatever you can see in the diagram, I'm using this is the phase, and for this cycle we developed. So these are the few publications not updated from our student out of those projects which we are handling in our lab. So I'm stopping here. I was a little quick, because if I go in a more technical, I think people may get bored. So I'm open to your question answer basically. I just want to give idea of research, what exactly we are doing, what exactly you can do, and overall scenario of the electric vehicles. So now I'll be happy to answer your questions. Please feel free to ask me any questions if you have.
Uh, First of all, thank you, sir, for spending time with us. Now, uh, participants are open to ask the question. If you have anything, then probably you can raise your hand. Probably I can unmute you, or maybe you can write down in a chat box. So both way it is possible. Harsh Sukla is asking about the slide. I think that is up to sir.
No, we can
Sir,
say no issue. I'll remove few results and we can say no issue. No issue at all.
okay, okay. Is there any way of fast charging? Abhay Trivedi is asking, is there any way
Fast
of
charging,
fast?
yeah, fast charging. When you are talking about the fast charging, ultimately you have to increase the value of current. Your voltage is constant, so you have to increase the current. But ultimately, the battery degradation is also into the picture. Okay, people are working for fast charging. Yes, people are working, and this is available also. But ultimately, everything has their pros and cons. So fast charging is there, but ultimately at the cost of the battery.
Okay. I think Sahil Jaiswal has some question he has raised. Sahil, I have unmute you. Please.
Sir, we can use solar power panels in our car to charge it during driving also. It will
Yes,
increase.
yes, 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 yes. Why not? You can do.
Yes, sir,
But
because
you have to think about the body to weight ratio. Okay, your charger, the weight of the panel should not ultimately overburden on your overall system. So you need to take care for that. I hope you understand what I'm saying.
yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Sir, another question from the Harsh Sukla is, what was the
What is the
efficiency of?
efficiency of wireless charger? The wireless charger which we have developed in lab, that is the power which we have transferred is 600 watt only. Okay, 91% efficiency we have achieved for that. That is a literature available. Paper is also available online. But in lab we have achieved only 91%. Although we got a comment from the reviewer that this is a less efficiency, but whatever we have achieved, that is, I mean, in front. So 91% we have achieved. We are trying to increase it because 95, 96% this should be there.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Sir, another question from the Harsh Sukla is, what was the efficiency of wireless chargers?
I have told. I mean, just discuss
Okay.
that question only.
Okay, okay. ठीक
What are the strategy you are using to manage heat generated at a high charging? Exactly. See, heat in a charger, heat sinks are there. Okay. Basically, heat sinks are designed based on the losses. As I have told you earlier, that you are reducing the losses. It could be the conduction losses, switching losses, or any other losses. Means maybe by using some PWM or something, you are reducing the inductor size. Ultimately, inductor size reduce means your losses which are also going to take place in inductor, that also reduce. So ultimately, depend upon the loss, you have to design the heat sink. Okay, and so ultimately you can reduce those losses. In this way, we can manage the heat generated. First of all, you have to calculate what are the how many losses are there, and accordingly, you have to design the heat sink. Abhay Trivedi, currently Tesla is producing EVs. Is India doing something in the field? Yes, definitely. People are doing. A lot of people are working that. You have I mean, startups are also there. IIT Hyderabad startup, they have developed a bike. I mean, we are lagging. We could have developed by the now. But yes, IIT Hyderabad, they have developed a bike also. So a lot of people are working in that area. Even Hero Electric, Mahindra, all are working. This Ashok Leyland, they all are working. Even trucks are available. Varun, one more person, Tata and Hyundai are working in this side. Yes, yes. Tata is too smart in technological. I mean, they are funding. Even Tata are funding so many startups. So as a UG student, how can we get information about it? As a UG student, you need to be, I mean, aware. Lot of things are, I mean, coming out. Lot of journals are available, or lot of magazines are available, in which you can find all those informations. Even if you don't go anywhere, you just took the standard material from the government side, e-mobility mission and all, you will find so many things out of it. few of the things I have taken from those government datas only. I have not explained policies and all. This is a long presentation, but you can get easily. Tell about something about lithium-ion battery. Yes, lithium-ion battery is the, I mean, biggest source of inspiration, I would say, because lithium-ion. I told you that lithium is not available. I mean, in India, I mean, we have a limited resource, or maybe by now we have not explored it properly, I can say. Okay, but the major lithium resources are available with Chile, China, Argentina, Australia, like that. So, if you want to create a lithium-ion battery, definitely you need lithium. A lot of people are working. I mean, see, the people who are in material science, physics, chemistry, they own more responsibility than electrical engineer. Okay, to be frank, for this battery management, for battery development, they must come out with the things. Yeah, lithium. Yeah, that is basically R&D. I mean, people have thought that it could be a solution. This is just imagination right now. Okay, I won't say this is under development, but future, next to next.
Okay.
Any other question,
Okay.
please?
Okay, thank you, sir, for a wonderful talk, and I hope that many of you have enlightened now to work towards the e-vehicle. So probably these are the future what I believe that e-vehicle, or maybe somewhere down the line maybe we can have some automatic vehicle also, so that probably sir, one concern from my side, probably the question
Sir,
is
sir.
also, sir. Uh, Sir, what about the load management for an electric vehicle?
Load management.
Means that means ki sir, probably means the Yo bike, I think Yo bike or something like
Oh,
that is there in 15 years back when I was studying in NIT
yes,
Surat.
yes, yes, yes,
So
correct, correct.
at that time the problem is that first one is the speed, because probably it will take the speed is not much. I'm not sure about
Yes,
the
yes.
current scenario.
Huh.
And another thing is this, if it is a two-seater, that means if two heavyweight people will sit, then probably that still going to be suffer.
Yes, basically, right now, just start from our cycle. The speed is around 25 kilometer per hour. Okay, less than this, or 25 kilometer. And I mean, earlier we planned to have a bike, I mean, develop bike that would run around 100 kilometer, maximum 100 kilometer per hour speed. Okay, so speed is not an issue right now. Okay, sometimes purposely the speed of the vehicle is reduced, like while operating in the IIT Delhi, they purposely reduce this speed to 20 kilometer per hour just to avoid the accident and all. Okay, that is another scenario. But as far as the load is concerned, means light, I told light load to heavy load. So basically, just like your vehicle, normal vehicle also, when you have when five people are sitting, there's a kind of another loading. Okay, when single person is there, there's another type of loading. So it means that the variation in the load. If two people are sitting, one people are sitting, or you are going for a terrain. Let's say we tested this cycle at an Nahargarh Fort also. The kind of height. Okay, so when you are going on height, again loading is another kind of loading is there. So running on a normal surface, running with a less number of people, that is kind of loading I'm talking about. Extra, yeah, extra number of people, height or something, that is a separate load. This is extra load on the vehicle, extra load on the battery, on motor. That is basically loading I'm talking about.
Okay. Okay, thank you, sir. I think probably the last question that just pop up, sir. So this is the last question for today. Sir, SUV kind car battery consume more battery than the sedan or hatchback cars.
Sir, repeat the question once.
Sir, do SUV kind cars battery consume
Battery more
more
than the sedan
than
or hatch.
sedan or hatchback
See,
cars?
yeah, this is true because see, I told you, lower segment. Start from my cycle. I have a 10 ampere hour battery. Okay, when you go for a three wheeler, tricycle, or maybe the C segment vehicle, the size of the battery will start increasing. In your this trucks, you have a higher battery, 100 kilowatt hour or something. So depending upon their size, or you can say the rating, or simply you can say that if you have a Maruti 800 or something, and then you have a SUV, the consumption of the consumption of fuel is also varies. So similar is here. Okay, ultimately they are extracting the energy. Either they are extracting from the fuel, or either they are extracting from the battery. Okay, so that's why high rated batteries are there in the SUVs and all. I hope I answered your question.
I hope, sir. Sir, again, thank you for spending time with us. Thank you, sir, for your wonderful talk. Thank you all
Thank
the
you, sir. Thank you
participants
very
for
much.
listening this. Hope to see you again. As I announced earlier, that this is the first of the lecture. So every Saturday 5 to 6 there will be a lecture. So for next week, I think Dr. Menka will talk about the non-classical CMOS device, tunnel fed. Okay, thank you, sir.
So
Thank
we
you.
have a less number of people. I think next time the people should be at least 50 or 80.
Yes, sir. Probably it is fault at our end. Probably I have started publicizing just one day before that, but probably I will take care of that, because now I have prepared that plan and I have all the speakers for next 4 lectures also. So probably I will now start publicizing more and more well in advance, sir. Thank you, sir. Okay. Have a nice day, all of you. Thank you.